Even if most products get forgotten by the media after the review period is done, there are a few that stand out. Gadgets that people still ask about months later. Some that we even decide to hold on to as daily drivers, and that we get to see age over time. The Google Pixel Fold is one of them. This might just be one of the most interesting foldables of last year that's already going beyond its refresh cycle. If you're wondering if it's still worth considering, this video is for you. I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocketnow, and this is Google Pixel Fold after the buzz. I think foldables have made a case for how difficult it is to have one product be good at two things. Surely smartphones have done a great job over the years at helping us cram a portable computer with a great camera into our pockets, but most of the magic is actually software-based. It killed the MP3 player with files and an app, and the lack of physics in the camera sensors and optics were all solved with computational photography. This whole idea of combining a tablet into a phone is only as good as how well it's implemented, but right now it seems only Chinese companies are getting it right. Samsung on one end is still struggling to get the phone part right with its narrow design, but then Google, well, let's just say the Pixel Fold has its own set of struggles. Like the Find N and Find N2, Google's decision to make or follow on a more passport-like design was rather interesting because even Oppo decided to move away from it with the Find N3 and OnePlus Open. 3 generations helped Oppo learn how to make Generation 2 lighter and then Generation 3 even more lighter and taller, all while Google tested this design for nearly the same amount of time and with different results. Visually, I'll admit it's hard not to like this phone, even nearly a year later. From its chrome accents to its matte back and its wider aspect ratio, place this phone on a table and you're totally getting noticed. There's just nothing like it. Surely nerds will complain about its hinged border not being symmetrical with the curved display, but seriously, who cares? It looks crazy elegant while off or with a dark wallpaper. My problem with this design is really when you pick it up. It's a whopping 30 grams heavier than the Z Fold 5 and 50 grams heavier than the OnePlus Open, so using this phone while closed was not necessarily the most pleasant experience. Stainless steel truly is a better material from a rigidity standpoint for the hinge, which aged gracefully along with the aluminum rails in the Gorilla Glass Victus, but yeah, at a heavy cost. Now, the genius with this design is that this proved to be a far more conventional phone. This larger cover screen meant I rarely had moments where I felt like opening the phone. If anything, I'd call this one of the best one-handed phones of last year given how easy it is to reach each corner, at least with my freak hands. It's not exactly 16:9, but close enough to also make this the ideal YouTube watching experience while propped on a table, and by the way, this is either using the outer display or the inner one. It also allowed it to be a better multitasking tool while open, since the wider panels made apps fit better on each side. Now, would I have preferred a better inner display? Yes and no. I actually praise Google for using the thicker border in order to fit some of the internals and shed thickness off the phone's body, so no, the bezels don't bother me. The punch and the color from this AMOLED and its refresh rate are also proof that the quality in this inner panel is superb for all kinds of content consumption. Even the combination with the speakers meant you could binge watch anything without a problem.
Coverage on blogs to earn that coveted invite code. And all of that was crucial in sustaining interest in OnePlus for its first messy year of existence.
But then my problem is just how reflective the material is on it, making it complicated to use outdoors. I'm not even the guy who will complain about foldables with a crease, but even that's more pronounced here. Now, one of the reasons I was most excited for this phone is because, hey, if Google made a foldable, it only gave me hope that it meant Android would be more committed to this form factor. A year later, I'm not gonna say the experience has been perfect, but it's been a step in the right direction, sort of. See, in the past, foldables were always pretty late to essentials like software updates. This Pixel Fold is running Android 14 since day one, and we've seen competitors like Samsung match the behavior pretty closely. I've also enjoyed that this is a broader experience at using a Pixel. From the live and free transcription in the voice recorder, to knowing what song is playing on the lock screen, to the at-a-glance widget and easy access to Google Search, you get the same experience but on two different versions of the canvas. Better yet is the inclusion of all the AI features we've praised this year, like Circle to Search, or the fact that I'm already running Gemini Advanced without a problem. About my only issue is that over time, I've also realized that both these aspect ratios are not necessarily the best experience for Android. Ever since phones got taller back in 2017, well, so did the apps. Some don't fully adapt, and others just feel crammed once you pop up the keyboard, which only makes them look worse when you're working in tablet mode. Flipping the phone on its side does help a slight bit, but even this is a dated aspect ratio. That's the one thing I expected this phone to fix with its deployment, but we're still not there yet. Now, a net positive is that all my original complaints with Tensor G2 on this phone have sort of been addressed through software updates. I deal with no more overheating during day-to-day use, and all the rest of the specifications included remain on par with what I'd expect from a flagship. Even the occasional stutters I noticed when this phone launched are now gone in favor of a very fluid experience. I think a lot of it is due to optimizations in this phone's connectivity, because that's far better and phone calls sound a tad less muffled than they did at launch. Heck, even battery life is now leaving this in all-day phone category, though I wouldn't count on it for a second day. But above all this, one of the biggest reasons to be excited about this phone is because Pixels know how to do photography even on the lower end, and boy do foldables need that. Google might not have bestowed this phone with the pro optics we see on flagships, but when it launched, these were far better than anything else out there, and I'd say they've held up pretty good so far. See, any phone can take good photos during the day, but this Fold does a very good job at honoring the Pixel legacy with its added character. The amount of contrast and depth that you get from these photos makes the results feel like if this was taken with a bigger camera sensor, leaving very little to be desired. Sure, I would have loved there to be a wider ultra-wide, or that the zoom capabilities went further than 20x through Super Res, but all these results have far more of a stylistic approach than most foldables. What didn't really improve with software updates is just how long it takes this phone to take photos at night. Surely the results are great, but regardless of which focal length you pick, be sure to not be on a rush because it is slow. And I also feel a lot of these photos are far brighter than what my eye saw at the moment, so forgive me if I think that most of these are overdone. That said, I love how features like long exposure are here. To be able to take pro-level photography with a simple swipe is a joy. Surely, I wish the rest of the features were here like on the Pixel 8 Pro, but hey, I'll take it. Selfies and portraits were then another example of a phone that does too well for its optics, giving results a much warmer look. The added contrast is still here like on previous Pixels, but instead of the old sharpening in excess, results are far more artistic today, playing in its favor when it comes to how it plays with lighting. Sadly, this is the Pixel I'd least recommend for video, or at least I would recommend you disable HDR. Even in good light, it falls apart with the ultra-wide, and then overdoes color with just too much on the standard. Clearly, SDR video here is more true to life, even if you lose so much of the useful information you get from an iPhone, for example. This is another case where phones with Tensor G3 are just far better, though yeah, at least this phone gets stabilization right. Selfie video is then just too tight in the crop, though far more stable than you think while you're filming. It's what I'd call okay, but not something I'd use this phone for. Oddly, even the far cheaper Pixel 8a chews it up, and that's really because of the new chip. To conclude, let's just say this might be one of the most complicated After the Buzz episodes I've ever had to do. Here you have the knight in shining armor that comes to validate the existence of foldables, that comes to confirm that Android is here to stay in this form factor, and yet it's hard to not feel like this is a first-generation product, even while Google spent as much time perfecting the craft as OnePlus did, for example. I could easily award this as probably one of the best first-generation products I've ever used, sure. It's not half-baked at all. The problem is that it's not navigating the market alone by any means. It costs the same as pretty much every other foldable, or if not more, if you compared it to the OnePlus Open, and yet with the exception of photography, I can't say that it's better in anything else in comparison. It leaves me on the ropes because as much as I personally want to love this phone, it wouldn't be the product I'd recommend you consider a year later. If anything, it leaves me very optimistic for a Pixel Fold 2 if we're gonna get one this year, but as it stands right now, I'd hold off and wait it out. If Google takes extra steps in refining this hardware and getting even more creative about its software, all matched with camera tricks and AI that are this good, and a Pixel Fold 2 would be an easy recommendation in the near future, if it ever happens. Let me know if you agree with our assessment in the comments down below, and while you're at it, follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. You can also follow me on my personal handles to see me want to love this phone more than ever. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.